us about yourself and what motivated you to run for the Arizona State Legislature?
Robert, thank you for that question. It was, I just have to go back to maybe 2019. I got involved with the Chandler Republican Women's Club here in Chandler. And then I joined the Chandler Chamber because my husband and I have rental properties, a little small business there. And and then I grew up in a farming community where my dad was self-employed. He had a gas station and then he had a propane company where I seen what it was like, regulations and all this kind of stuff. And then going forward here presently is I just see that I think some of us need to just stand up and defend the small business in our communities. And I'm not against the corporation people, but I mean, the small business mean a lot. It's the backbone of our economy. And then not only that is my platform is faith, family, and freedom. And I really feel like we're losing some of that liberties in our freedom here, even in the marketplace. And then my son is in the Air Force. He's stationed right now in Japan. We had the opportunity to go over there over the holidays. And gentlemen, it just spoke to my heart again that if our sons and daughters are over fighting for us and our freedom and liberty, then I need to be here in the front lines too. And that's kind of my burn thing to represent Chandler and a little part of Gilbert. I love both the city of Chandler and Gilbert, and that's just my passion to serve.
Okay. What professional or personal experiences best prepare you to represent the business community in Gilbert and the East Valley?
Well, kind of going back to that with my dad being a small business owner and stuff, that's where I got my start. I started in his gas station as a little girl. We worked there. And then in his propane company, I did customer service. I also did the accounting there. That's where I learned my basic accounting skills there. And then I did work, and I think it applies. I worked for the Internal Revenue Service Criminal Investigation Division for 17 years and seen fraud and the white collar crime there. And kind of just, again, looking at your finances, the bookkeeping and everything in reference to that. But then my husband and I do have that small business of rental properties. And then I also have a small business with a friend in vent planting. So I feel like I can represent the business as well.
Okay. Arizona has built a reputation as a pro-business state. What policies do you believe are most important to maintain Arizona's economic competitiveness and ensure that businesses continue to invest and create jobs in Gilbert and throughout the state?
Robert, say that question one more time.
Absolutely. Arizona has built a reputation as a pro-business state. What policies do you believe are most important to maintain Arizona's economic competitiveness and ensure that businesses continue to invest and create jobs in Gilbert and throughout the state?
Well, I do feel like that Arizona right now has a great policy. I mean, we do let people know that we're open for business. Again, I just was following, and I know you guys probably heard it here in Chandler about the data centers. I think there's a place for them, not in a residential area, but that we know that that particular businesses, do well within residential areas, but the other stuff, I believe we have room to grow them outside of the city. Am I making sense on that? I just want to make sure that within Chandler, in that little part of Gilbert that I have, is to protect the citizens, but also help the business. What do we do? I know Chandler is about ready to be built out. Gilbert, you guys are growing leaps and bounds, and I really believe your city council will have some control on that. But because whatever policies will help, I believe, the economics of our small businesses, because they are the backbone of our communities. So it depends on what that policy is, Robert.
Okay. Dan?
Hi, Debra.
Hi,
What role,
Dan.
hi. What role should the legislature play in strengthening workforce pipelines through K-12 education, community colleges and universities, and career training programs?
That's a good question, Dan. I do believe that we should open up more of the trade schools, because a lot of kids are tending to go that way instead of saying, I want to go to a 4-year college. I think every avenue, especially with K on up, is that we should have the freedom as parents to choose what school our kids go to. Personally, our son, we only had one. We had him in a private school and then a charter school, and he did very well. But knowing our son, because he was a preemie baby, and we just felt like being in a larger group or class, he would get lost. So I feel like that should be a choice for the parents, Dan, in reference to what school. Again, when you go through that is EVET. I love that kind of trade school. I like ASU. I like University of Arizona. I just think that we should watch what we legislate and what kind of bills that are passed that would affect that freedom for our children to grow in their education.
Thank you. What role should the state play in supporting transportation and water infrastructure and other key systems necessary for continued business growth?
Reference to water, is that really your question, Jan? What in reference to the water? Because I know we get it from 3 different sources of water here. Is that what your question was
Yes,
to see? Okay.
the state role in supporting both the transportation and water infrastructure programs.
Well, I feel like on the water, in reference to that, is we have the 3 sources, and I know I could just relate back to Chandler, and how well they're doing in their water is recycling it, conservatoring of the water. I would encourage all the cities and stuff is to start trying to recycle your water and conserving it. And then the transportation of water is, I really haven't thought of that, Dan, because of, are you saying into Gilbert and Chandler to transport water?
Perhaps separately, transportation infrastructure, and then separately from water infrastructure. So 2 different questions.
Okay.
So
Sorry that I misunderstood that, because transportation, in your call, I clarify that for me, please, because I think I have an answer, but don't want to go the wrong way.
Sure. Another way, perhaps for me to ask, is what role should the state play in supporting transportation programs for the continued business growth?
Well, I think we should take a look at that and what's being developed at that avenue, because I think in transportation is very important. Get to A to B, and B to C and all that stuff. I think the roads should be safe, and not potholes in them and stuff like that. And then the inner structure of that and how does that work? I would have to educate myself, Dan. I'm just being honest. I would have to educate myself a little bit more in reference to that. I just know driving around, and even going out of state and whatever, sometimes 10 is, I think, is being somewhat developed on that. But I would think I would have to research that a little bit more, Dan. And the water is, I think we have to look at it very strongly. on the water issue, and seeing what we can do in reference to saving water and how we use water here in the state. And not only the state, I mean, in Gilbert and Chandler, to sustain us in our growth.
Okay. Perhaps building on that a bit more, is there a specific transportation or other kind of infrastructure project you feel is important for our community?
Within Gilbert, and I'm gonna say Chandler because that's my LD 13. In the transportation, I think we're doing. I mean, we have the bus system. We have quite a few other systems that'll work for people, that I see that is working for them to get to their jobs or home or school. So I think we could keep up with the innovation of transportation, and how does that look like in the future? Because I think we still need to look forward in how we do transportation.
Thank you. Next question has to do with housing. When it comes to housing availability and workforce housing, what policies, if any, should the state consider instating to improve our housing supply while maintaining appropriate roles for local communities in planning and zoning decisions?
Well, on housing, I did touch a little bit on being a real estate agent there for a little bit with our rental things, and then I put that on hold. I believe housing is very important for our communities and our families. I believe that the market holds that, the value of your home in the market in that. I would like to keep it that way and not let the state government come in and ruling and regulating our housing, the rates on apartments or condos or anything like that. I do believe that we have to diversify, and make sure that we can reach all the people that live in our communities. Do we have townhouses? Do we have condos? Do we have single home families, and stuff like that, to help grow our community? Because if you have good businesses, then you're going to bring in the employees, you're going to bring in these things. And so I believe that whatever we can do to assist that, but I still believe that I would take a deep look at it. So did I lose you guys?
No, still here.
Okay. What did I do? Oh, sorry. My laptop is very touchy. But getting back to that is just, again, what affects our family. And I would very look at any policy that would come down on the state level and say, how does this affect our families in their pocketbook?
Thank you.
Well, thank you for that, Deborah. I'll ask the next one. It's a deal. It's about authority, right? How do you view the balance between state authority and local decision making when it comes to economic development, housing, and business regulation?
I really believe it starts locally. I mean, the local government, that's who we vote in as our mayor and our city council, people to represent us and stuff like that. I believe in smaller government. I believe the state should allow the cities to run their cities. I do believe we have enough laws on the books, even federal laws, that protects the rights of our citizens, no matter who we are, in reference to that. Again, I think state regulation of cities, I think it's a very hard balance. I believe. I think we can do it and stay out of trying to rule what our cities can do and what they can't do.
Well, let me ask you this. Can you share a specific issue you hope to champion when it comes to the balance between local and state?
Well, that's a good one, Eric. You guys, you know what? I'm going to be honest. I have tried to prep for this, and you guys are throwing me questions I did not prep. That's okay. What is going on now? I know there's some things I'm just not, I believe, have all the information I need to put out there. And I'm just going to be honest, Eric, I'd rather be fully with information on that. But I know there's something that's coming down. I would, what? That overrides the city. But I would have to definitely look at that bill and read it in depth to say, you know, how would that affect? But my first reaction was, wait, you can't, you know, overwrite the city's rights to regulate themselves.
All right. What role should the legislature play in supporting reasonable water management while ensuring that communities like Gilbert can continue to attract business and residents?
Well, I think water is the biggest issue here in Arizona. I hope to educate myself a little bit more on that with this, you know, CAP. You got wells, and I'll ask that question: is some of Gilbert on wells? Do you know some of your farmland still on wells? Okay, and the aqueduct underneath that. I think we should again look at innovation and moving forward. How can we recycle water better? How can we do these things that would attract and keep the businesses that are in Gilbert and in Chandler at this time? Because they're the backbone. Economic, you know, economy is the businesses is the backbone of our cities. So I would try to do all my best is to figure out what works for Gilbert and Chandler to say, how can we save our water and how can we get more sources in here for that water?
Well, and our last question, what is one policy issue affecting Arizona business community that you believe the legislature should prioritize over the next 2 years?
For the businesses. Well, I believe taxes are very important, and how that I'm so thankful for Senator J.D. Masner that got us the flat tax. But again, we're looking at I don't know who's going to win the governorship. My thing is, I think it's very important. That legislation thing is how do we keep them taxes as low as we can make it for our small businesses, for our families, so that we can prosper in our communities. It's my biggest thing.